medium strength, nothing too intense, but we will move a little bit. Nothing too strong though. A little bit of everything. Okay, so we'll come to Sukhasana to start. So cross legs. If it helps you to sit up on a blanket or a block, if you have got a blanket or a couple of blocks handy, if you like to use them in your practice, then have them handy. But we'll come to seated cross legs. And that nice compact Sukhasana, where the shins are crossed roughly in the middle and the feet are roughly below the knees. And then we'll take the flesh away from the sit bones, just so that you've got that nice broad base. And then before we do anything else, take the arms up above the head and really lift yourself up. Think about lifting the front of your abdomen, the sides of your waist, the back of your abdomen, of the back body as well. Really lift. So if you're trying to reach something that is just above your head and you can't quite get it, so make yourself really long. And then maintaining all of that, release the arms down and then just rest them either on the knees or in your lap, wherever feels comfortable. Begin to soften the shoulders. And then gently closing your eyes. So I thought tonight we would focus a little bit on just accepting things as they are, being neutral. So it's very common when we practice, isn't it, that we're sort of striving for things to be different than they are. You know, we get frustrated, don't we? I'm not flexible enough, I'm not this, I'm not that, the pose isn't this, the pose isn't that. I want us tonight to just be neutral about it. Try to be an observer of things as they are. So we're not striving for anything to be any different than it is. Okay, so having said all that, again, relax your shoulders again, soften the facial muscles, and just start to become aware of your physical body. So your outermost part of you, if you like, so the skin, the bones, the muscles, all of those parts of you that enable you to interact with the world around you. So the ears, any sounds you can hear through your ears, any sensations you can feel, maybe the feeling of the air on your skin. And just becoming aware of where you end and the space around you begins. So the shape of your physical body in space. So we talk about the layers of the self in yoga, don't we? And that's our outermost layer. And if we were to take all of that away, then the next layer is the breathing body. So start to become aware of the breathing body. Start to watch your breath. Just breathing in and out through the nose. And just starting to really get a sense of the quality of your breath right now, just as it is. Noticing maybe if it's a little bit shallow, maybe it's still a bit jagged. Just allow it to begin to settle. But being neutral about it, so we're observing without having an opinion really. You can notice it as it is and accept it as it is. Start to become aware of the sensations that are associated with the breath. Okay, so the next layer is our emotions or our thoughts. And we've always got background thoughts going on, haven't we, in the mind? There's always something. And usually when we have a thought, there's an emotion attached to the thought. So just see if you can take a little bit of a step back from that. Again, be neutral about what's happening. Almost as if you are watching yourself on the telly. You're observing the thoughts. You might be aware of any emotion that's attached to something that's there. But you're staying neutral. almost like just a good friend being there with no judgment, just kindness, knowing what's there and allowing it to be as it is. Okay, then we'll come back to the breath. And then just slowly lengthen and deepen. Starting to make the inhales fuller, longer, wider, and deeper. And then with the exhales, just finding a little bit more ease, a bit soft, anywhere that you can. Okay, from here we'll bring the hands together in front of the heart and just take a moment to place each finger together individually, the outer edges of the hands as well. Get as much of the flesh to meet as you can. Heels of the hands come into the chest and then slightly pointing the fingers away. Relax your shoulders again and just observe the sensations where your hands meet. And that space in the center of your palms where the hands don't quite touch. Is there anything that you can do to just decrease the size of that space? It's very gently pressing the hands together a little bit more. Taking a nice long inhale there. As we exhale, allow the chin to come to the chest. And then just taking a moment to really smooth any remaining expression that you have on your face away. Allow the skin on your temples to soften. Relax the area between your eyebrows. And then on the next exhale, we'll release the hands and then gently raise the head and blink the eyes open. Okay, coming down onto our back. So if you're sitting on something, you might just want to put it away to the side. Come down onto our backs and then stretching the legs away. Inhale, take the arms up above the head. Just come into a full body stretch. Reach your way through the toes, reach your way through the fingertips. Again, think about being long. It's almost again like you're trying to reach something above your head that you can't quite reach. Inhaling there. As you exhale, we'll bring the right knee into the chest. Squeeze it in. Inhale, stretch everything away again. And then exhale, bring the left knee in. Okay, we're going to do this a few times. So inhale, stretch away. Exhale, bring the right knee in. Inhale to stretch away. Exhale, bring the left knee in. Just keep going with your breath. Inhale to stretch away. Exhale, bring the right knee in. Inhale to stretch away. Exhale, bring the left knee in. Okay, one more each side. So inhale to stretch away. Exhaling to bring the right knee in. Inhaling to stretch away. And then exhaling to bring the left knee in. Okay, inhale, stretch away. And then as we exhale this time, just bring both knees in. Give yourself that little gentle squeeze, little bit of side to side, rock and roll, whatever feels nice there. Just gently warming up into your low back, finding any little tender areas and just starting to iron them out. Okay, from here, when you're ready, we're going to take the hands behind the thighs, just start to rock back and forward a couple of times. And then we'll come all the way up, cross the shins, put the palms down and come straight into a downward facing dog. And when you get to your downward facing dog, see if you can come to stillness. So we usually do a lot of movement when we first get here. And if you need to move a little bit, do, but find your stillness as soon as you can. Have a little look at the hands, make sure that they're both doing the same thing. Index fingers point forward, spread your other fingers wide. Feet are at least hip width. Outside edges of your feet are parallel, or even a little bit, the heels are a little bit wider than the toes. Start to think about pressing the mat away with the hands. Soften around the base of the neck. Just allow the sides of your neck to lengthen. And observe the whole of your body here.
in your downward facing dog? Can you feel the contact with your hands and the mat? Can you feel the contact with your feet and the mat? Can you connect back to your breath? Observe how it feels without wanting it to be different. So you're observing, noticing if any thoughts come up, is it this, is it that? Can you just be a little bit more neutral maybe than normal? And then on our inhale, we'll look forward, we'll step, hop, float, walk, tiptoe, just come to the front of the mat, however. Once we're there, forward bend. Knees can bend as much as they need to. From here, we'll come up, so press down through the feet, lift the chin, come up with a nice flat back. Arms roll up if you insist, but I prefer not to. Take the arms out, around and up, gaze up. And then exhale to release the arms down. Okay, I'm going to do Sun Salutation A 2 times, just to warm us up a little bit. You can modify it, you can do whatever. You can skip the whole middle bit if you want to, it's completely up to you. Inhale, take a big circle with the arms, reaching up and gazing up, and then as we exhale, hinging forward. Inhale for your halfway lift, chest lengthens forward, half Uttanasana. As you exhale, bend the knees. You can always go straight to downward facing dog if you want to, or coming to plank. Inhaling in plank and then coming down through the knees, or you can come straight to chaturanga if you're feeling up to it tonight or not. Inhale for your back bend, upward facing dog. We'll stick to a cobra and then find your way back into downward facing dog, and we'll take 5 breaths. 1. So again, finding that stillness in your downward facing dog. 2. Are both hands doing the same thing? 3. Can you observe how the whole of your body feels in downward facing dog, but without any judgment? 4. And 5. On the inhale, look forward. You can step, hop, float, walk, tiptoe. Make your way to the front of the mat, however, and then exhaling to forward bend. Inhaling to come up, pressing down through the feet, keeping the arms coming out, around and up. Reach up, gaze up, and then exhale, release the arms down. Okay, second one, inhale for a big circle with the arms. As you exhale, hinge forward, so synchronizing the movement with your breath. Relax the head and neck. Inhale for your halfway lift. As you exhale, stepping back, you can skip the middle bit if you want to, go to downward facing dog or come to plank. Inhale in plank and then exhale, come down. Use the knees, do whatever. And then inhale for your back bend, up dog or cobra. And then exhaling back into downward facing dog for 5 breaths. 1. So can you really press into the base of the index finger, base of the thumb in downward facing dog. 2, and then it's almost as if you're trying to smear the mat slightly to the right with the right hand and slightly to the left with the left hand. 3, so you get that outward rotation with the shoulders. 4. And 5. On the inhale, look forward, step, hop, float, walk, tiptoe. Come to the front of your mat and then exhale to forward bend. Inhaling to come up, pressing down through the feet, keeping the arms coming out, around and up, gaze up, and then exhale. Okay, on the inhale, find Utkatasana. So have a little look down, make sure that you can see your toes in your Utkatasana. Start to think about the weight more back in the heels and the sit bones are drawing to the backs of the knees. The upper arms lift. Lower ribs, can you soften them in and then maybe come a little bit deeper in your Utkatasana. Maybe you can start to think about turning the gaze up as well. Maybe you can straighten into the arms a little bit more. Inhale there. As you exhale, come into a forward bend. Inhaling for your halfway lift. As you exhale, stepping it back, you could go straight to downward facing dog, or we're going to come to plank and then come down through the knees or chaturanga. Only going to do 1B, don't worry. Inhale for a back bend, up double cobra. And then exhaling back into downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, inhale, take the right leg up. We'll bend the knee and open the hip to the right. So keep the right shoulder joint down. There's that tendency there to let that shoulder jump up, isn't there? So keep the right shoulder joint down and reach the right knee as high up to the ceiling as you can. Inhaling there. As we exhale, we'll bend the knee, hug the thigh and bring the weight forward and step the foot forward. And again, no judgment. If you're not making it all the way, don't worry about it. Help the foot forward. From there, turn the left foot out, root it down, and then on an inhale, we'll come up and find our warrior one. Sink into the front knee. See if you can shave the outer right hip back in your warrior one. Little bit of outward rotation with the inner left thigh as well to help your left knee to be pointing more over the toes. Can be a little bit of an issue in warrior one, that the back knee is twisting. So if you can rotate your inner left thigh out slightly, it should be a little bit more comfortable for the knee. Draw the shoulder blades down the back. Lower ribs soften in there as well. Maybe you can bring the palms together and see if you can take the head right back and gaze at your thumbs. Lower ribs soften in. Maybe you can sink a little bit deeper into the front knee. Maybe you can press a bit harder into the right foot and feel the top of the right thigh bone drawing back into the hip socket. Inhale. As we exhale, we'll take the hands down. You can go straight to downward facing dog, or you can come through the vinyasa bit if you want. Inhale for back bend, up double cobra, and then exhaling back into our downward facing dog. Okay, from there, inhale, take the left leg up, bend the knee, open the hips to the left. So it's this big yawning stretch for the hips. Trying to keep the left shoulder drawing down. Reach that left knee just as high up as you can towards the ceiling. Inhaling, exhaling to bring the knee in towards you, bring the weight forward, stepping the foot as far forward as you can, helping it if you need to. The right foot turns out, you root it down, and then we find warrior one on the other side. Sink into the front knee, outer left hip shaves back. And again, that inner right thigh slightly rotating outward just to support the knee a little bit more towards the direction of the toes. Lower ribs soften in, tailbone is heavy. Maybe the palms can come together. You can take the head back and gaze right up at the thumbs. But if that's not feeling good in your neck, then you don't do that bit. Up to you. Press into the left foot so that you're really engaging the whole of the left leg as well in warrior one. Inhale, warrior one. As we exhale, we'll take the hands down. We'll find our way to downward facing dog however we want. This is it for the vinyasa. Don't worry. Inhale, upward facing dog or cobra. And then finding our way back to downward facing dog for 5 breaths. Come on, and again, observing your body. 2, just noticing how everything feels. Noticing what thoughts come into your head. Are you dissatisfied in some way usually with the pose? Can you just be neutral? 3, 4, and 5. Okay, inhale, take the right leg up again, and then we'll bend the knee and open the hips to the right again. So it's that yawning stretch. Draw the right shoulder down, relaxing the head and neck. Right knee will lift up towards the ceiling as high as you can. Inhaling. As we exhale, we'll step the foot forward again. And this time we'll just come into a supported runner's lunge. So adjust your feet. Right knee's over the right ankle. You might want to lengthen back a little bit through that left heel. And then let the hips sink down here. Chest is lengthening forward. Okay, so it's tempting to kind of collapse onto that right thigh, isn't it? Try to stay up onto the fingertips. You can always use blocks here as well if the floor's too far away. But try to support yourself so that the chest is lengthening forward. And then from here, can you start to think about pressing the outer right knee towards the inner upper right arm? Notice how that makes you begin to squeeze that outer right hip in. And then from there, can you lengthen the chest a little bit further forward again? Think about replicating that feeling with the outer left hip as well. Squeeze them in and lengthen the chest forward. Back of the left thigh lifts. Hips are moving down. Okay, inhaling. As we exhale, we're going to switch. So step the left foot forward and take the right foot back. So straight to that runner's lunge on the other side. Left knee's over the left ankle. Think about the hips moving down, outer left knee presses towards the inner upper left arm, and you lengthen the chest forward. Back of the right thigh is lifting, hips are moving down. Try to replicate that squeezing in action with the hips both sides to find even more length with the chest forward. Inhale, exhale to switch again. So take your time, doesn't matter, adjust it, do whatever you need to. Straight away, get that action of the outer hips squeezing in. The chest is lengthening forward, inhaling. Exhaling to switch. Inhaling exhale, this time we'll find our way back into downward facing dog, and then just observing how your body feels. Remembering to just relax the sides of the neck, outer upper arms, spin them back. Noticing what the quality of your breath is now. On our next inhale, we'll take the right leg up again, and then as we exhale, we'll step it forward. Okay, this time we're going to find a warrior two. So turning the left foot out and rooting it down. With the left arm, draw a big circle out, around and up, and then find warrior two. Well done, sink into it. Adjust your feet if you need to, so checking you're lining up heel to arch. Shoulders are drawing down away from the ears, shoulder blades are pressing into the upper back. Try to equalize the weight in both feet here. So we're not overly leaning into the right foot. We're trying to spread the weight evenly, gazing over the right middle finger. Arms are engaged as well here. So it's as if we're trying to push an imaginary obstacle down with the hands to feel the engagement with the arms. We're not just hanging out as much as we feel like we might want to. Okay, inhaling in our warrior two. As we exhale, we'll come straight to side angle. So you could bring the elbow to the knee, you could bring the right hand to a block on the floor or all the way down to the floor. And then the left arm comes up and over. In your side angle pose, adjust it. If you need a block, use a block. If you want to elbow to the knee, do the elbow to the knee. But the front knee is opening out, the inner left thigh is lifting, and then your right hip is moving forward between the legs so that you can start to think about turning your chest. Chest and abdomen facing up towards the ceiling, hopefully. Okay, my right leg is burning. Don't know about yours. From here, we're going to take the left hand to the waist, look down for some balance. Inhale to come back up into our warrior two. And then from there, straightening the leg, front leg, we'll set up for Trikonasana. So again, just check you're lining up heel to arch. You again might want your block there if it helps you with Trikonasana. Inhale to lengthen up through the crown of the head. And then as we exhale, reaching with the right arm. Remember with Trikonasana, you want as much length as you can between the right hip and the right underarm. We don't want to collapse this right hand side of the body. So lengthen. And as soon as you've come as far as you're comfortable to, release the right hand down. Left arm reaches up, gazing up towards your left thumb if that's okay with your neck. Try to keep lengthening the right hand side of the body. Can you adjust the tailbone to point to the back of the left heel? And then any amount, you're turning your chest up towards the ceiling in Trikonasana. There is that tendency here, isn't there, to be pointing the chest down. So make sure that you're not doing that to the side or any amount up towards the ceiling maybe. Well done. I'm boiling hot in here already. Okay, looking down to your right foot, we're going to inhale, press into it and come back to a warrior two, just briefly. And then from there, we'll straighten into the front leg, turn all the toes to the left-hand side of your mat, a little bit of a turn in with the toes. And I'm going to give you a choice here. So we're going to come into wide leg forward bend. Your choice with the arms, but you might want to try taking the arms behind you and taking hold of the elbows. You might even come into reverse namaste. It depends on your shoulders. You might not want to do either of those things. You might want to use the hands. So it's up to you. But this is quite a nice variation. I'm just going to take the elbows, not a reverse namaste. But from there, inhale, lift the chest. As you exhale, come forward. Now, we all know about using our abdomen to come up from here, but I will remind you. Okay, relax the head and neck. Can you roll the shoulders back? Can you widen across the collarbones? Can you bring the weight a little bit more to the balls of the feet? Can you lift from the inner thighs? Can you press down in the feet to lift up through the hips? Relaxing the head and neck. Noticing the quality of your breath here. Keep opening the chest. Okay, to come up from here, we want to use Uddiyana Bandha, so drawing the navel in, strongly using the abdomen to come all the way up from there. Well done. And then we shouldn't feel it in our back. From there, release the arms. We're just going to heel toe the feet in. You might want to shake the legs out. And then we'll come to a little balance, which I'm quite fond of at the moment. But do your version. So again, no judgment. Doesn't matter, be neutral, whatever version that you're comfortable with doing tonight, you go for. So you could take the weight into the left foot, you could just take hold of the right knee, you can stay with that variation. You might take the first 2 fingers around the right big toe. Whichever option we're going for, we're going to take the leg out to the side. So you can either take the leg or the knee out to the side, and you can use your left arm to help with your balance tonight. Well done. And keep squeezing the outer left hip in, remember. So there's that tendency here with these balances to kick off into the left hip. You want to keep it squeezing in. Right, sit bone is pointing down. I've lost it now because I'm looking at myself. Right, sit bone is pointing down, and you're outwardly rotating that right inner thigh if your leg is straight. Okay, well done. We'll release. Shake the legs out. Come back to the front of your mat, and we will find a downward facing dog. So inhale, take the arms up above the head and gaze up, and then exhale to come forward. Inhale for your halfway lift. Exhale, just step back to downward facing dog. Okay, we're going to have to do all of that again on the other side. So inhale to take the left leg up, and then exhaling to step it forward, bringing the weight forward, flexing the foot to step it forward. We're finding warrior 2. So the right foot turns out and we root it down, and we draw a big circle with the right arm, out, around and up, and find warrior 2, and then adjust your feet when you get there, making sure that you're lining up heel to arch, front knee opens out, tailbone is heavy, shoulders relaxed. Can you spread the weight evenly across both of your feet in your warrior 2? Can you pin the shoulder blades into the upper back? Remember that activity with the arms as well. It's like you're pressing an imaginary obstacle down with the arms. So the arms are really working as you gaze over your left fingertips. Okay, inhaling warrior 2. We'll find the side angle pose that we're comfortable with. So you could do the elbow to knee. You might use a block. You might come all the way down to the floor with the left hand up to you. But keep thinking about the inner right thigh lifting. The left hip is moving forward between the legs to help you to any amount begin to think about turning your chest. So same here as in Trikonasana. We tend to have the chest facing down. See if you can turn any amount. Right shoulders drawing away from the ear, but you're reaching through the right fingertips. Staying heavy in that outer right foot as well. Okay, left leg is burning now, so look down to the left foot. Inhale, press in, coming back to warrior 2 briefly, and then we'll straighten into the front leg, set up for Trikonasana. So adjusting the feet, making sure that your torso is pointing to the right side of your mat. Inhale to lengthen up through the crown of the head. Exhale, reach. Get as much length as you can between the left hip and the left underarm. As soon as you need to stop, stop. Left hand down the shin or to a block, and then the right arm reaches up. Try to maintain that length on the left-hand side of the torso. It's as if you are reaching up through the right hand to pull your torso up towards the ceiling. So you're really strongly reaching up through the right arm. The tailbone adjusts to point to the back of the left heel. Have you any little thoughts or judgments coming in? Can you just be neutral, observing it exactly as it is? Doing our best still, but being neutral. Okay, looking down to the left foot, inhale, press in, come up, and then we'll find that wide leg forward bend. So do what you want with the arms again. I'm going to go for the elbows. You might want to come into reverse namaste. It's quite nice. It makes us open our chest, but you choose. If it's too intense for your shoulders, then just taking the elbows or not doing that at all, up to you. Inhale to lift the chest, and then exhaling to come forward. Once you've come forward, you're relaxing the head and neck, you're rolling the shoulders back, you're widening across the collarbones, inner thighs are lifting, kneecaps are lifting. Can you press into the feet to lift up through the hips more? Observing how everything feels. So it's like we're being that neutral observer. Instead of wishing that we were in a different place, at a different level. Okay, to come up from here, Uddiyana Bandha, draw the navel in, really use your abdomen. We shouldn't feel it in our back at all. And then release the arms. Okay, we'll heel, toe the feet in. We'll come to that balance on the other side. So if you need to shake your legs out, shake your legs out. And then other side, so your choice again, which variation do you want to do? You can take the toe, you can stick with the knee, you can use your arm out to the side to help with the balance. Trying not to let that right hip kick out. Left sit bone points down. Inner left thigh rotates out as well. And I can see very clearly on here the bad habits I have. But there you go, that I'm judging. Try not to judge. Okay, take another breath and then we'll release that. Shake the legs out. We'll make our way back to downward facing dog. So inhale, arms up, gaze up. Exhale, come forward. Inhaling for your halfway lift. Exhaling to find your way to downward facing dog. So not coming to a vinyasa unless you have a burning desire to do so. Okay, we'll come into that hip opener again. So from downward facing dog, inhale, take the right leg up, bend the knee, open the hips to the right, lift that knee up to the ceiling as high as you can. Keep that right shoulder drawing down. Inhaling. As we exhale, we're going to come into a pigeon pose, not for a long time, but we're going to bring the right ankle towards the left wrist, lay the outer calf down, and then scoot back through that left foot. You can tuck the toes and just work your way back there. If you need a blanket or a block to support your right hip, then do whatever you need to. And if you find these really easy, remember to keep the back toes tucked. You take a moment in your pigeon just to let the hips settle for a moment. And then come forward to your degree. And I'm not going to stay here too long. It's not a yin. But just try to soften into this as much as you can. Release the jaw. Relax your shoulders. Make sure you're not gripping where you feel this in your outer right hip. Are you judging? Can you still be neutral here? It's so easy, isn't it, to get frustrated with that. I'm not flexible enough, I'm not this, I'm not that. Be neutral. Be with it as it is. Okay, we'll take one more breath in our pigeon and then come back up, tucking the left toes. Come all the way up, straight back into that hip opener. So right leg up, bend the knee, open the hips. And then release the right foot back down. Okay, we'll do the other side. So inhale the left leg up, bend the knee, open the hips to the left. The left knee reaches up to the ceiling. Inhaling and then exhaling to find your pigeon pose. So the right ankle towards the left ankle, even towards the right wrist. Lay the outer shin down. Heel toe that right leg back. Adjusting it, remember if your knees don't like it, adjust it. This foot can be close to the hip. Pad out your left hip if you need to. Do whatever. And then instead of saying, this is my hard side or whatever, just be neutral about it. Be with it as it is. When you're ready, come forward just for a couple of breaths. Maybe keeping the toes tucked if you're on the very flexible side with these poses. It's always very different, isn't it, between sides, especially some of these hip poses. And then we judge ourselves and we get frustrated because we're not at the same, it should be the same or it should be this. Just try to be neutral. Accepting. Okay, one more breath in our pigeon. And then we'll come up, we'll come straight back to that hip opener in the downward facing dog. So Pressing up, maybe adjusting the feet, lift the left leg, bend the knee, open the hips, and then release the foot down. Okay, just coming to downward facing dog, just for a couple of breaths, and observing how everything feels now. Try to be aware of the whole of your body. Feel the contact with your hands and the mat, the contact with your feet in the mat. Can you lift up out of the shoulders more? Can you lengthen the sides of the waist more, sides of the ribs? Can you press the shin bones back? Okay, one more breath in downward facing dog. And then we'll just drop the knees and then come to our bum, bring the legs in front. And I'm coming into Baddha Konasana. So soles of the feet together. And usually when we come into Baddha Konasana, we bring the heels in towards us, don't we? So it's this cobbler's pose and we bring the heels in towards us. But tonight, take the hands behind you. And instead of bringing the heels towards you, take the hands behind you, lift up and come and bring the hips towards the heels. Now, we don't want any discomfort in the knees, don't come too far. You can always sit on a blanket as well here if it helps. But just notice the difference that makes. If you bring the hips towards the heels, we're sort of coming more onto the front of the sit bones. We're changing the angle of the pelvis and it might feel a little bit different. Can you just relax and let the knees begin to descend down towards the mat? Keep the chest lifted. Okay, taking another breath. And then we'll come into Upavista Konasana. So take the legs wide. So 90 degrees-ish. And same thing here, hands behind you. Shift the weight forward, keeping the toes pointing up though, so that you're more on the front of the sit bones. Okay, so in our Upavista Konasana, if you relax the legs, you'll notice that the feet either do one thing, they either come forward or they come back. We've all got a tendency, usually when I do this in a class, most people's tend to roll back, I think. Mine tend to roll forward. My natural tendency is pigeon-toed. But whichever it is that yours do, notice which it is and be aware of that and don't let it happen. So we really want to keep our toes pointing upright in Upavista and keep the feet flexed. And as soon as we start to think about something else, they tend to go to the default position. But to protect our hamstring attachments, we really want to keep the toes pointing up, and it is quite important in this pose. It's not the easiest pose in the world, is it? And we can end up putting a lot of strain on the hamstring attachments right at the top of the back of the thigh. So it's important to try and keep the toes pointing upright and keeping the feet flexed. The knees are pointing up, the thighs are pointing up. If you can, just lean forward and have a little look. You might see that there's a lot of gaps at the back of the leg. There's probably gaps at the back of the knee, there's at the back of the ankle, maybe at the back of the thigh. If you take your hands behind you, can you try to eliminate those gaps? Be aware of whether your feet want to start to do their own thing. Try to keep the toes pointing up. But begin to really try to ground down as much as you can into the backs of the legs so that you start to eliminate those gaps. And it's not that easy, so do your best. Not the easiest pose in the world, this is it, especially if we've rolled to the forward on our sit bones, which is what we're meant to do. Keeping the toes pointing up, keeping the back of the legs grounded. Can you start to think about lifting the chest? Can you think about the upper arms coming back? Can you lengthen the sides of the waist? The armpit chest, this area here where your arm meets your torso, can you lift there? Stay soft around the base of the neck. Keep grounding down through the backs of the legs, keeping the toes pointing up. Okay, you may well need to keep your hands down behind you to maintain all of this, so feel free to if you need to. Otherwise, can you maintain it all and think about bringing the arms up? Keep the toes pointing up. As we did at the beginning when we were lifting up, can you again lift up, really lift up, lengthen the sides of the waist, fronts of the abdomen, back ribs, Armpit chest lift. Well done. Easy peasy, not. Take another breath and then release. Okay, we'll come forward now, but again, make sure that the toes don't roll in or out. Try to keep them up. Try to keep that grounding action going at the backs of the legs as well. If you can take the toes, then you can take the toes. Maybe you take the outer edge of the feet. Maybe it's too much that and you're just going to take the shins. And even when I'm talking, my toes want to start to roll in. So be aware of that and keep them pointing up. Wherever it is you're taking hold of. Inhale to lift the chest and then any amount come forward. Now be aware here that we don't want to curve our back to come forward. If it's too much holding the legs, you can always have the hands in front of you, so you can always do that option, rather to keep the toes pointing up and stay in control than be trying to force it. But think about the chest coming forward any amount. Keep the shoulders relaxed. Don't curve your back. Nice strong stretch that, isn't it? Really challenging. Some of these seated poses actually are far more challenging than the standing poses, aren't they? If you do them right, they are. Don't let the toes do their own thing. Think about protecting your hamstring attachments. Okay, taking another breath and then release, come up, well done. We're just going to come to a downward facing dog to stretch the legs out again. So cross the legs, come back to your downward facing dog. Moving in any way now if you need to, and then finding your stillness. Okay, nice little move for us now to come into our next seated pose. Not too dissimilar from some other stuff we've done. Okay, from here, take the right leg up, inhale. Exhale to step the right foot forward. And then from here, we're going to take the weight into the right foot, bend the left knee, and then maneuver it all the way out in front. Well done. It's a little bit slower and more controlled than we do in some of the core classes. That okay, so we've come to seated now with the left leg straight and the right knee bent, so we can set up here for Marichyasana. So for this pose we're going to have the right heel in front of the right sit bone or a little bit wider, hands width distance between the foot and the inner left thigh. You can stay upright and hold the right knee. Try and get that grounding action going with the back of the left leg again. Try and stay as upright with the torso as you can again. In this pose, that right hip always does lift up a little bit, which is fine, but try to keep the the sit bone pointing down. So the outer right hip is moving down, even though the hip is lifted. Okay, you can stay here, or we're going to take the left hand down. Inhale, take the right arm up. And then as you exhale, you come forward with the chest on the inside of the right knee. You could reach towards the left foot there. You might stay with that variation. If your shoulder's comfortably beyond the right knee, you can rotate the shoulder forward and then wrap the arm around, and then maybe you take a bind there. And if you're nearly there with the bind, you can use your belt or use a belt, or you can hold onto your clothes if you don't have a belt handy. Try to stay heavy in that right foot, whatever it is you're doing. And then inhaling to lift the chest, and then exhaling, we come forward. And if you're in the bind or you've got that right arm in front of the right shin, you can press back with the right arm just to help you lengthen the chest forward. Really nice opening for the hip knot, they say. Okay, and then inhaling to come lift your head, and then we'll release that. From here, we're going to take that right knee out to the side, flex the right foot, lift up from underneath, and then rotate from the hip and just place that ankle over above the left knee. Okay, I don't want anyone to have any unpleasant sensation in their knee here. So if you're not sure about this, be careful. You can always release the foot and come into more of a sort of Janu shape with the legs. If you feel okay with this, you might want to come further. You might want to bend up the left knee and come into that lovely square pose. If it hurts your knees though, ease off. You might go back, you might keep the lower leg straight. It's up to you. Okay, and now with our arms, we're going to come either to reverse namaste or take the elbows behind us. And I'm sticking to the elbows. I'm not being too intense in my shoulders, but it's up to you. And then inhaling to lift the chest, exhaling any amount coming forward. And it might not be very far. It's an intense stretch. But again, be neutral. Don't judge yourself. Don't just be neutral about where you are. Be with the sensation in your body. I don't want any sensation in the knee, as always. And I always judge myself in these poses. Some of the hip poses I find very easy, and others of them just feel like they never get any easier, don't they? But just be happy, content, neutral. Okay, inhaling to come up. We'll release. So stretching the legs away, maybe pointing and flexing. And then we're going to do that the other side. So we'll come to downward facing dog to come into it in that nice little way. That nice little sort of pistol squat way. Okay, inhaling, take the left leg up. Exhaling to step the left foot forward, helping it if you need to. Taking the weight into the left foot, bending the right knee, and then maneuvering that leg forward and sitting down. Doof. Hopefully not crash landing too much. And then we're ready for Marichasana A. So hands width distance between the left foot and the right thigh. And then, yeah, if you find that left hip is lifting a little bit, don't worry about it. Just try to keep the sit bone pointing down and the outer hip is moving down. Okay, you can stay upright. Try and ground down through the back of that right leg, as we did in Upavista. Otherwise, we'll take the right hand down. Inhale, left arm up. Exhale, come forward. Stay there maybe. Once that shoulder's beyond the knee, you rotate it forward and you wrap it around and maybe you bind. And if you're nearly there with the bind, you can hold the close or use something. Okay, if we're binding, we press the left tricep into the left shin to lengthen the chest forward. Stay heavy in that left foot as well though. And again, is it very different this side? You know, be neutral about it. Be with it as it is. Just noticing the sensation that you have. Okay, and then we'll release that. Let the left knee drop out, flex the foot, lift from underneath, and then place the ankle above the right knee. And again, you might stay with that. If it bothers your knee at all and you're not sure, then stick to more of a jamming with that left foot. This might be intense enough and you might really dislike this variation. So skip it if you don't want to bend the lower leg as well, don't. I find this incredibly intense. So make sure that it's not hurting your knee. Keep that left foot a little bit flexed. Hands behind you, maybe you'll take the elbows. If you can remember which way round you did it last time, try and do the other way. It probably feels very odd. And then inhaling to lift the chest and then coming forward any amount. It might not be far at all. Don't judge. How am I doing? Crikey. Okay, inhaling to come up, releasing. Take the legs in front of you, point and flex, pad the knees up and down. And then we'll just come to downward facing dog again, just to stretch the legs out. And then there's another pose we've done a few times this week already, actually. But we're going to do it again since we're focusing on the hips. So inhaling, right leg up. Exhaling to bring the right knee forward. Shin is on about 45 degrees. And then we're going to bring the left knee behind the right knee. Both shins come forward and then we take a seat in the middle to come straight into cow face pose. That is one way to come into cow face with the legs. Again, just watch your knees. Be careful when you do that. And then adjust your sit bones. Eventually here we stack the knees, and I know I say that a lot, but don't force it. If it's not comfortable to stack them, just as close to that as you can. Okay, option tonight to do the full cow face pose. So Gomukhasana arms, you may or may not be comfortable with, up to you. We'll take the right arm up, bend the elbow, spin the tricep forward, and then just gently draw back with the left hand to stretch your tricep. And then the fingertips start to walk down between the shoulder blades there. Okay, that might be enough. If you know that you can't do this bind here and it's nowhere near and you don't want to do it, then you might just want to stay with the tricep stretch. If you want to come further, we're going to release the left arm, rotate so that the palm faces back, and then the back of the left hand comes to the low back, and then you see if you can take the bind there. You can always use a belt or hold your top or just be working towards that. Okay, you might stay upright in the bind. It might be intense enough to be upright. Otherwise, we inhale and lift the chest, and then exhale again to your degree, come forward. And remember when we're coming forward in this, to keep the weight into the sit bone, so you're not collapsing everything forward onto the knees. So stay in control, and if that means not coming that far forward, then just don't come very far forward. Okay, inhaling, come up, unwinding, unraveling, shaking the arms out. You might just unravel the knees a little bit to find downward facing dog again. And then we'll do it the other side. So inhaling the left leg up, exhaling, bringing the left knee forward, left shin lays down at about 45 degrees, bring the right knee behind, and then sit down in the gap. Or get here in a different way if you want to. And again, the knees are stacking as close as they can. Don't worry about it if it's really intense. Again, is it very different this side? Don't judge. Okay, and then left arm up. Spin the tricep forward, bend the elbow. Trying to keep the tricep spinning forward. And just come into that tricep stretch first. Draw the elbow back. You might want to stay with that. That might be enough. It might feel quite nice to stretch the tricep if you haven't been doing much practice lately and then you've done a week of chaturanga. Feels nice to stretch my tricep. Okay, fingertips walk down between the shoulder blades. Release the right arm, rotate so that the palm faces back, back of the hand to the low back, and then maybe you bind. And again, is it very different this side? Don't judge it, just observe it. Be with it as it is. You might stay upright. Inhale, lift the chest. You might come forward, but not collapsing all of the weight into the knees. Stay heavy in the sit bones. Full cow face pose. Okay, and then we'll inhale, come up. Release the arms. You might want to shake the wrists out. You might want to move the arms. We'll unscramble the legs. We'll come back to Upavista. So take the legs wide again. Can you keep the toes pointing up? Can you ground down through the backs of the legs in your Upavista? Can you be slightly on the front of the sit bones there as well? If you need to have the hands behind you to help you to stay in Upavista, then do that always. Keep the chest lifted. Okay, backs of the legs are moving down. Can you eliminate those gaps? And then from there, bending the right knee, we'll bring the right heel in. So we'll come into Janu Shasana. You might want to use a block here to support yourself as you come forward over your left leg. Turn yourself to face the left leg. You might take one hand on either side of the left leg, and then inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, come forward over the leg to your degree. And again, it's that idea of the chest moving forward, not curving your back. And you might have a block and rest your head. You might take the foot. You might not want to rest your head. I say this a lot when we do this pose in Hatha class, but we tend to, there's a lot going on in Janu, and we tend to sort of go a bit skew with the torso. So the left ribs tend to drop down and we end up sort of twisting a bit here. So if you're doing that, if your left side ribs are dropping down, take the left hand out to the side, come onto the fingertips, and then press into the fingertips just to gently lift the left side ribs so that you're more square over that left leg. And then try to maintain that position with the torso. You can either leave the left hand there or you can bring the hand back, but maintain that position with the torso. And you might feel it more in the right hip when you do that as well, because you're not just sort of collapsing. Chest is still moving forward. Back of that left leg is moving down as well. Okay, inhaling, head up, exhaling to release. We'll come back through Upper Vista, so stretch that right leg out. Back of the legs are moving down, toes are pointing up, hands behind you, lift the chest. And then bending that left knee, bringing the heel in. So it's quite nice to come into Janu this way because you're more open in that hip as you turn to face your right leg. But again, you support yourself in any way that you need to. You can always support that left knee if you need to. Turn yourself to face your right leg. If you want to block to rest your head on or anything, then you can do. Hands on either side of the right leg. Inhale, lift the chest, and then exhale, come forward to your degree. You might use your block for your head, you might not. You might take the foot, you might take the shin, you might take the ankle. Feel that in your left hip as well. It's a hip stretch as well, isn't it, Janu? As well as a hamstring stretch. Okay, have your right side ribs dropped. Have you sort of collapsed there? Take the right hand out to the side, come onto the fingertips, gently press, lift the right side ribs, and then the chest comes forward. Maybe you keep the right hand there, or you maintain that position with the torso and bring the right hand back. Back of the right leg is moving down. And then inhaling to lift the head, exhaling to release. We'll bring both legs straight in front of us now. Just come into Dandasana briefly. Hands down by the sides of your hips. Think about eliminating the gaps at the back of the legs here as well, but it's a kind of balance between locking the knees out and hyperextending, which we don't want to do, and having that action with the backs of the legs. A little bit of softness at the backs of the knees at the same time as grounding down. Hands down by your hips, chest lifts, elbows back. Chin towards the chest in Dandasana. Chin towards the chest, but can you sort of think about the ears coming back to be more above the shoulders? Lift the armpit chest as well. Okay, taking another breath there, and then we'll come down onto our backs. So you might want to bend the knees and just support yourself coming down, hands behind the thighs or around the shins, and then ease your way down onto your back. And when you get there, bring the knees in. Maybe give yourself a little bit of a back massage if that feels appropriate. And then maybe you want to come briefly to a bit of happy baby. Done quite a lot around the hips again tonight, so maybe a bit of happy baby just to release the hips, the low back. And then find Savasana, come to lying flat. Maybe adjusting the back of your shoulder blades. Adjusting the back of your hips. Relax your mouth. Relax your jaw. Soften your throat. Just let go completely. just for a few minutes. And now just slowly begin to bring your awareness back. Gently moving fingers and toes. Taking a nice long full inhale, have a stretch, so arms up overhead, maybe interlacing fingers, have a full body stretch. You could bend up the knees, draw them into your chest, give yourself a hug, take a twist. So any move or stretch that feels nice. And then when you're ready, just making your way to your right hand side. Taking a moment there and then finding your way back to seated when you're ready. Any seated position, cross legs or not. And then we'll bring the hands together in front of the heart. Just taking a moment to relax your shoulders, softening your facial muscles. Just observing everything as it is. Taking a nice long full inhale through the nose. Cleansing breath out through the mouth. Namaste. Thank you very much. Sorry. Hope it wasn't too much. It's not too much for you guys, is it?
Great, Caroline. Thank you.
Happy.
Thanks, Caroline.
I'll see you very soon.
Bye.
Thanks, Caroline.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Caroline.
Be sure.